Business is one of the most effective forms of activism. Business can be one of the most expressive forms of art. But most of us are never taught to think about it that way. I'm going to talk to you today about a concept called non-profit business. I trust that this is something that most of you have never heard of, which is good. That's why I'm here to tell you about it. But let me first start by defining what nonprofit business is. Nonprofit business is a form of social enterprise that gives 100% of its profits to charity. The idea is that we are trying to decouple the profit motive from the operations of the business, with the idea that we can then use business as a vehicle for pure positive impact. So how would you implement this? Well, what you can do is you can take, for example, a combination of a foundation and a company. The foundation owns 100% of the shares of the company, and you have these things called statutes, in which you can write up some very interesting restrictions and other things. The first thing you write in the statutes is that, indeed, you give 100% of your profits to charity. Okay. The second thing that you write into your statutes is that you are not allowed to have investors. That's kind of funny. Why would you put that in there? Well, for example, it means that you are not allowed to make use of things like venture capital. The second restriction that you write into your statutes is that your company may not be sold. You cannot have an exit. So no acquisitions, no mergers, no IPOs. Of course, anybody from Silicon Valley watching on the live stream is going to say, what? Why would you want to do this? Well, I can tell you the reason why. Venture capital and acquisitions are both in the service of maintaining the status quo. Venture capital, which supports certain businesses, essentially allows big, powerful, rich powers that be to tell you what to do. And oftentimes, they're maintaining the interests of white, male, 20-something, business culture. Same thing with exits. You can build a social enterprise that does useful things for the world, but if you then sell it to some corporation, all of a sudden your business is no longer your own, and some big power that be now is telling you what to do with your vehicle. This is why I think if you want to use business for what it was originally intended for, I think you need to keep it free of these kinds of corrupting influences. So at this point, I've basically thrown out everything that Silicon Valley tells us to do. And I've also basically thrown out more or less what they're teaching us in business school and what they're also teaching us in the average business incubator. So let me give you an example of what you can do with this. I'll tell you what I have done, and then hopefully you guys will understand how you can leverage this to make use of your own skills. So I'm a computer scientist, okay? I'm a geek, in case you couldn't tell. And My specialty is hacking stuff. It's true. So, I grew up as basically being a techie, as probably some of us here in this room very well might be, or maybe not. But, I have this particular skill set. At a certain point, it was a natural thing for me to start a security company, because that was my particular skill set. However, the security industry in the Netherlands made me extremely unhappy for a number of reasons. One, the market leaders in the Netherlands work together with the intelligence agencies. They build surveillance systems that get sold to the developing world. And then when the hacker community called them on it, did they stop? No, they just sold that part of the company. They hack activists, because, Greenpeace is so scary. So, and that's the market leader in computer security in the Netherlands. And then the other sort of follow-ups, are basically the big accountancy firms, which, to be quite honest, are not that much better. So if you are an ethical hacker in the Netherlands and you wanted to be employed, you actually had very few places that you could go to use your skills and actually try to make the world better, as opposed to just helping big corporations to become more powerful and to maintain their positions. So that was the reason why I started Radically Open Security, which is a non-profit computer security consultancy company. I set it up in the way that we just described it. I actually used a fiscal construction called a fiscal fundraising institution, Fiscaal Fondswervende Instelling in Dutch, which essentially was a construction that we stole from the churches, which enforced our being nonprofit. Essentially, sometimes churches want to do a commercial spin-off, and then they want to do some commercial activity, and they want to get the money with a tax advantage back to the church again. So I decided that I was going to make my commercial spin-off a security consultancy company, and I was going to make my church the NLNet Foundation. And NLNet is a foundation, a Dutch foundation, that has been, well, basically acting as a grant agency for digital rights projects, open source, and everything for a better internet for the last 20 years. So I deliberately set up the company in such a fashion because I wanted to put a fair trade alternative on the computer security market, so that companies, just as when you have a fair trade product with consumers, like let's say, an example I like is a chocolate bar brand called Tony Chocolonely in the Netherlands. They have fair trade chocolate, which prevents the use of children, slave labor, in the chocolate. And it makes it as easy as voting with your euros when you want to buy a chocolate bar. You just buy Tony's instead of one of the other ones, and then you are contributing to stopping this child labor. Well, I'm doing essentially the same thing for businesses now. Businesses now can choose to support openness, transparency, open source, and, well, nonprofit business by voting with their euros. And the great part about this is businesses and governments and huge organizations have tons of money. And when they start voting with their euros, watch out. But the point is, you need to actually give them an option that they can vote for. Before I'd started Radically Open Security and I was unhappy with the current market players, I asked the customers, are you happy with the current market options? And almost universally, the answer that I got was, well, no, but what's the alternative? So I figured, well, I'm going to start the alternative. So a venture capitalist, or I should say an angel investor, offered me $500,000 at the very beginning when I wanted to start my business. And of course, I turned it down, because I did not want to give up one iota of control over what I'm building. And to this day, I have never had 1 second of regret. If you are in a services-based industry, and there's many, 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 many in this world, you don't need venture capital to bootstrap. In fact, it's best when you do start with nothing because it forces you to make smart business decisions at the beginning. What business school doesn't teach you is that when you bootstrap with launching customers, the business you get from the customers compounds over time. You know, when you have customers, they keep coming back again and again and again, and they keep giving you more money, which compounds, just like interest in a bank account. But when you have venture capital, you have a one-time infusion, a runway, and then you spend it. And then when you spend it, it's gone. So actually, all that time that you're spending on venture capital, attracting it, you know, getting it, spending it, you're actually distracting yourself from what you actually should be doing, and that's getting launching customers. Plus, you don't sell your soul to the devil, which helps. But with radically open security, you know, for a very funny nonprofit company, we managed to explode in the Dutch security market and very much disrupt the industry there. In 4.5 years' time, we have grown to a medium-sized company of about 40 staff members and about 80 customers. At this point, we are winning an increasing number of RFPs against the commercial players. And the funny thing is, if you talk to the commercial players and tell them you're doing things wrong, they don't listen. But as soon as you put an ethical alternative on the market, you hit them where it hurts. And that is in the wallet. And then all of a sudden, they are paying attention. Since radically open security came on the security market in the Netherlands, not only are we stealing the customers and the staff of the market leaders, because of course, what ethical hacker would actually still want to work for the corporates once a nonprofit security company is on the market? The market leader actually introduced an ethics policy. They even put on the front page of their web page this mission statement with some paragraph in it that starts with, and I kid you not, for us it's not about the profit. And this was the company that was selling surveillance software to the developing world, right? So, you know, but the fact that they're stealing our messaging, as insincere as that may be, shows that they're listening. They are feeling the financial pressure. They're changing themselves, not enough, of course, but it doesn't matter, because in the end, I'm going to make them irrelevant. But the fact is, we can all do this with our unique skills. I took computer security and made it a nonprofit company, but you know what? You could do this with almost anything else. 6 months ago, I started a nonprofit startup incubator called Nonprofit Ventures. And we are currently operating as a nonprofit business, and we are incubating 11 aspiring social entrepreneurs to help them start their own nonprofit startups in completely different areas than cybersecurity. One person wants to create a nonprofit software consultancy firm, you know, software development, with the same model as radically open security. Another person is a visual artist trying to save her neighborhood. A third one is an Indonesian guy who's trying to create jobs with fair wages by having them validate Western real estate contracts. Well, it's about creating the honest jobs, of course. And it has nothing to do with cybersecurity, and that's awesome. Because I don't need to know about the details of what they're doing, but I'm teaching them the nonprofit business. So what I would like for everyone in this room today is to stop and think about how you can use your own unique skills and talents to create a non-profit business with that. Non-profit accountancy? Great. Non-profit compliance? Why not? You know, but there's so many possibilities. And when you leave the conference today, I want you to think seriously about how you, as citizens, as individuals, can take your own responsibility to use your skills to reclaim business and make it a vehicle for good again. Thank you.